Hi, welcome to Highland Cottage Books. I'm Martha, and this is Highland Cottage, and today I am in my pajamas. I am put my hair up in a messy bun. I did slap on about 30 seconds worth of makeup because I don't want to blind you with my vampiric paleness, although that would be on brand for the topic we're discussing today, because today we are talking about spooky books that take place in the fall or are perfect reads for the fall. I am dressed like this because this is my second favorite thing to do at this time of year. My first favorite thing would be to be on a horse riding through the woods, but I don't have a horse and I don't have any woods to ride through. So, failing that, I'm going to cuddle up on my couch. I'm going to grab a couple books and I'm going to read the rest of the afternoon away. And I am sharing some recommendations for the people who might want to do similar things. So I made coffee, tea, and there's some apple cider in the fridge if that's what you want. Come hang out, have a seat on the couch, and let's talk books. In the September house, Margaret and her husband Hal have bought their perfect dream home. It's gorgeous. It has plenty of land around it. It's in the Victorian style. It's wonderful. It's the perfect place you want to be. Except, it has a flaw, which happens because, life is full of compromises. And in this case, it's that every September, it's haunted. 11 months out of the year, it's just a gorgeous old house. But every September, the walls start bleeding blood. But, life is a trade-off and you have to compromise on some things. There's a little boy who runs up and starts screaming in your face. He's a little ghost. Actually, there are several ghosts in the house. And under no circumstances should you go down in the basement. On the first of the month, it's not that bad, relatively speaking, but by the end of the month, it's absolute mayhem. Now, if that sounds unpleasant, that's because it absolutely is. But they've managed to make it work for the last few years. However, this year, things have gotten a little more challenging because their adult daughter wants to come home, particularly because she hasn't spoken to Hal in a few months. And Margaret is kind of hiding the fact that Hal seems to have taken off and she doesn't want her daughter to know about it. So now she is dealing with her strained relationship with her daughter and the fact that there are locusts and flies running around the house and she doesn't want her daughter hurt by them, but she also doesn't want her daughter to know what's going on. So next door, my neighbor seems to be taking down a tree or something, and he stops every time I hit stop as I'm recording this, but as soon as I start up again, in the background, I apologize for that. But what you gonna do? This book has some genuinely scary moments, but it also is hilarious at times because it is absurd what's going on and it's just kind of slapstick in the craziness and the zaniness of her ridiculously haunted house. And it also is a bit of a metaphor of what we put up with in order to get the things that we think we want. And it ended up being one of my favorite reads the year that I read it. In Dark Harvest, the teenage boys of a Midwestern town have a yearly tradition. It's a ritual that the boys look forward to participating in once they reach the age of 16. There's a creature, figure, person, we're not sure what it is, that seems to emerge out of the cornfields every year on Halloween, and the teenage boys have to go hunt it down before it reaches the church. Now, there's a very good reason why you want to be the person who catches the October boy. In this town, nothing ever changes. Nobody ever leaves. There is no opportunity. Everybody is stuck doing the same type of job that their dad did before him. There's very little mobility at all. And they kind of live in this world that's a little separate from everybody else. I don't mean that in a supernatural way. I just simply mean that there is no ability to leave from an economic standpoint. It's not completely mandatory to take part in the run, but most of the boys want to do it and have been dreaming of doing it for years because it's really the only way to get any advancement in the town. And by advancement, I mean get out of the town, because there's nothing that this town offers anymore. Now, it should be noted that the October Boy, who is also called Sawtooth Jack and Old Hacksaw Face, is very dangerous. He can kill you. So this isn't just for funsies. Over the course of the book, it becomes clear that there are some secrets about the run that the boys are not in on, and that there are some dark reasons why this ritual needs to continue. This book has the feel of a modern day fairy tale, or a relatively modern day fairy tale. It takes place in 1963, or a Twilight Zone episode with some very frightening twists and turns along the way. Reprieve is about a full contact haunted house style escape room in Lincoln, Nebraska. If your team can make it through all 6 rooms without saying reprieve, then you will win thousands of dollars. This is no simple feat, and in fact, only one team has ever claimed the prize in the years that the house has run. Now, I love this book, and I think you'll enjoy it too, but I need to give you a little bit of a heads up. I picked out this book because it was on a list of the scariest books of all time. And I think that actually kind of damned the book in some ways. I think a lot of people picked it up because it was marketed as a horror, and the premise of it sounds like it could be horrifying, and it is. It's just not frightening in the way that, boo, it's not that kind of frightening. It's frightening because this is a book about greed and race and just upsetting psychological human things. It's not super gory. It's not about ghosts. And the fact that it was on that list, and I bet I was not the only person who picked up this book because it was on this list. It has kind of a low Goodreads rating, but I wanna back up, and I want to tell you about another book that I love, which is, so there's this paranormal medieval thriller romance, like dark romance. It's got incest in it. It's got some political intrigue, and then the ending is insane because all the characters that you've gotten to know over the course of the book, there's just a huge bloodbath. There's stabbings and poisons and all sorts of stuff. Sounds like a pretty awesome book, right? So you pick it up and you're like, what the hell is this, Martha? Why'd you give this to me? Because I just handed you Hamlet. I just sold it to you in a way that isn't really what the book is about. Then it doesn't make Hamlet a bad book. It just makes me bad at kind of framing it for you and ruining your expectations. So I want to tell you, this book is not like Hell House LLC, if you've seen that movie. It's not paranormal in nature. It's more kind of this sort of horror of, oh my God, don't do that. Just don't do that. Oh no, oh no. It's that. But if you want something that is clever, smart, and has a bit of social commentary while looking at the dark underbelly of what people are like, then this book might be for you. And technically speaking, I believe it takes place in April, but it is about a haunted house, and that feels fall to me. 80s Ghosts is about a ghost hunter at the dawn of YouTube. Now, she is a true believer. She believes that she can find ghosts and that they do exist. But this attitude has led her to be very close to financial ruin. Her 2 partners, her team members that make the vlog with her, they aren't true believers, but they like her and they like the job and they want to make this work. but they haven't had a great deal of success so far. Luckily, they get a last-minute invite to come visit a high school that appears to be genuinely haunted. There was a dance, a homecoming dance, and a fire broke out, and several of the students died. And since then, the town has fallen a bit into ruin. It was such a tragedy. The team goes to investigate, and it is clear that they have bitten off way more than they can chew. Now, this book is decidedly a popcorn book. It is not super deep. It is not high literature, but it is a lot of fun. And what I appreciated about it, a couple things. One, it takes place, there are some flashbacks that go into the 1980s, and they were actually pretty realistic to me. I've seen a lot of things written where everybody's in leg warmers and rubber bracelets and jelly shoes and all the fads all at once. And in reality, that's not what it's like. People weren't running around saying, "Gag me with a spoon" every 3 seconds. And what I appreciated about this is that the scenes that take place in the 80s feel like they really took place in the 80s. And there are some very nice details and some sensory memories that are evoked that clearly the person who wrote this either grew up in the 80s or did their research and understands human nature. The second thing that I really liked about this book is there's one scene in it in particular where there's a bully who is harassing a young woman. And it is one of the most realistic and harrowing versions of that I've ever seen. It's very visceral and well done and very upsetting, but it doesn't feel like it's exploitative. It feels like it will show people who haven't been through that experience exactly why it's a bad thing. Also, there are some very genuine paranormal frightening scares, particularly involving bad dreams and being in hotel rooms that aren't behaving. I would recommend this book to someone who is new to horror, who wants to just dip their toe in to see if it's a genre that they might enjoy. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil was hands down my favorite read on this list. And it is being marketed and being talked about as, that book about toxic vampire lesbians. And while that's true, it is so much more than that. What I loved about it is that it was the first time since I fell in love with the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice that I was introduced to a world that was so rich and full of possibility. There's a whole bunch of vampire lore in this. Some of it will be familiar, some of it will be new. There are characters that you meet for a few pages just to deepen the world, and then off they go, which I loved. There are some people who don't love the fact that it is, how long are you? 530 pages, 530 books, 530 pages. But that was great for me because we are talking about 500 years of history. My favorite books in the Vampire Chronicles are The Vampire Lestat and The Queen of the Damned, which are all about Lestat starting off as a human and then becoming a vampire and learning his lessons and learning how to be a vampire, and then meeting other vampires and figuring out kind of what his moral compass is, if he has one, and trying to figure out the history of the vampires, trying to figure out this whole new society. And what I loved about this book is that the main character, Sabine, spends a lot of her time meeting new vampires. She's 500 years old by the end of the book. And so she spends time with this couple over here. She spends time in this country over here, and she learns how to be. Or she doesn't learn how to be. She just goes deeper into her own toxic traits. You decide. Sabine is just one of a trio of women that we follow in this book. She is from Spain, and we don't get the characters' birth dates. We get their death dates. She died in 1532. We start with her as a teenager in her small town. She lands herself a Visconde or a Viscount and imagines that now she's going to be set for life, but her fairy tale marriage is nothing of the sort. But she's smart and she's pragmatic and she knows how to get herself out of tight spots. I will tell you that. So I also want to share this poem that gets repeated throughout the book that is a bit of a framing device, but it's also just beautiful. Bury my bones in the midnight soil, plant them shallow and water them deep, and in my place will grow a feral rose, soft red petals hiding sharp white teeth. The other two women that we follow in this book are Lottie, who is a Regency era young woman about to put herself or be put on the marriage market by her family. She has a bit of a cloud over her head because she was caught kissing her best friend. And so she's been whisked away to an aunt who is known for launching several successful young women into the season and into the ton. Finally, there's Alice, who in 2019 is entering her freshman year at Harvard. She is from Scotland and she is taking this as her chance to start a whole new life. These three women, Sabine, Lottie, and Alice, are all connected, and the nature of their connection becomes clear over the course of the book. One aspect of the story that I really enjoyed is that immortality is an illusion. For humans, of course, they say we rot from without, we decay, and we grow old, and we die. But for the vampires, they remain young, but they rot within. Over time, they lose their humanity and become more and more monstrous until they go mad. I enjoyed the main story and getting to know the three women and watching their adventures, such as they are, but I also enjoyed meeting all the other vampires in the world to see how they manage to survive and sort of negotiate this time in the midnight soil. While I say that this is a huge book full of lore and world building, it certainly is. It's also a very simple story, and it's one that's incredibly satisfying. Personally, I hope that Schwab takes a page from Rice and decides to build a universe around these characters. They're incredibly compelling. So that's it. Thank you for spending time with me today. I'm going to grab a couple books and a coffee and a blanket and spend the rest of the afternoon digging into some more reading. If you have any suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments below and please subscribe. Until next time, bye.